Since I was young, I was always told that investing was the path to wealth. Let your money work for you. The idea sounded simple, but when I received my first paycheck and started investing, reality hit. The truth about compound interest that almost no one talks about. To illustrate this truth, meet Pedrinho. He was 25 years old and lived on a tight budget. He avoided going out, eating at restaurants, or buying brand name clothes. Because of that, he managed to save $200 per month to invest. 10 years later, he opened his account and saw $44,000. He felt like a failure in life. But why? He didn't do anything wrong. He followed the path we've always been taught. Live below your means and save part of what you earn. But what Pedro didn't understand is that he was trying to roll a snowball using a snowflake. Compound interest rewards size, not willpower. It is a multiplier. If you invest $100,000, it can turn that amount into $200,000 in just a few years. In the same way, if you invest $1, it may become 2 in a few years. Compound interest does not perform magic, but it is not a scam as many claim. It simply obeys the laws of physics. Still, Pedrinho kept investing. He increased his monthly contribution to $750 because he had a better job. After another 10 years, he looked at his account and once again felt like a failure. After 20 years of investing, he had accumulated only $300,000. Pedrinho, now older and no longer naive, reached a sad conclusion. Money refuses to work unless you pay it a good salary first. Compound growth looks magical until real numbers appear. No matter how smart you are or how early you start, if one thing is missing, a substantial amount of money, results will disappoint. A significant amount of money is extremely important. But there was another part of the solution that Pedrinho failed to consider. Because he gave up after 20 years of investing and spent his $300,000 buying a house, he never saw how money transforms over time. After another 10 years, those $300,000 would have turned into $1.1 million, and in 10 more years, they would have grown into $3.6 million, generating around 36,000 Brazilian reals per month. And that is the real hard truth. If you are not willing to let time work in your favor, you will have to dramatically increase the amount you invest. In this video, we're going to dive deep into understanding compound interest and how the wealthy multiply their assets much faster, even when they start later. I will also share some strategies to help compound interest work in your favor. Even if you are starting with little money, it's challenging, but it's not impossible. So let's get started. First, the number interest. Let's imagine 3 people: Carlos, Larissa, and Julio. Carlos is more conservative. He invests in fixed income and obtains an average return of 8% per year. Larissa understands the market a bit better and is willing to take more risks. She invests in real estate funds and achieves an average return of 11% per year. Julio, on the other hand, prefers the stock market. He built a diversified portfolio with profitable companies and achieved an average return of 14% per year. They all made the same effort. They invested $500 per month for 30 years. But here's the question. How much difference do you think that made in the end? You might think, well, it's only a 3% difference between them. Maybe it adds up to $50,000 or at most $100,000. But reality is very different. After 30 years, Carlos accumulated around $704,000. Larissa ended with approximately $1.2 million. And Julio, well, he reached $2.3 million, almost double Larissa's amount, and more than $1.5 million more than Carlos. That's where the true power of compound interest reveals itself. Small differences in return rates turn into massive gaps over time. To give you an idea, if Julio's return had been just 1% higher, 15% per year instead of 14%, his final wealth would have jumped to an impressive $2.8 million. That's $500,000 more, just because of a small 1% adjustment in profitability. What seems like a tiny detail, 1, 2, or 3%, is actually one of the most powerful forces in the financial world. But none of this would be possible without the second key number, time. To better understand the impact of time on investments, let's change the scenario a bit. This time, Carlos started investing early, at 18 years old. He invested $500 per month with a 12% annual return and maintained that habit until he turned 65. Larissa started a little later, at 25. To compensate, she decided to invest double, $1,000 per month, also until age 65, at the same rate of return. Julio began even later, at 30 years old, and decided to invest $1,500 per month. Now, who do you think ended up with more money in the end? Many people would assume it was Julio. After all, he contributed the most money. But let's look at the outcome. Julio accumulated approximately $8.5 million, having invested a total of $630,000. Larissa finished with $9.7 million, after investing $480,000. And Carlos, well, with only $240,000 invested throughout his life, he ended up with an impressive $10.8 million. But how is that possible? Carlos invested far less than the other two and still walked away with much more. The answer, of course, is time. Time is the most powerful ingredient of compound interest. The earlier you start, the longer your money will work for you. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There's a saying that goes, power is only weak when it's small, and it fits perfectly here. In our case, that power is the amount of money you invest. And that brings us to the third and final key number in this equation: money. To understand this, we need to talk about Warren Buffett, one of the richest people in the world. With a net worth of around $152 billion, he is one of the greatest symbols of the power of compound growth. But what almost no one explains is why it works so well for him. Buffett mastered the three key numbers. He achieved returns between 20% and 30% for several decades, an almost impossible feat in the stock market. To give you perspective, if you had invested $500 per month at that rate for 40 years, you would have accumulated a little over $200 million. Even with hundreds of millions built through disciplined investing, you would still be very far from Buffett's fortune. That's because Warren Buffett started extremely early. At just 11 years old, he was already investing, and today he is 94 years old. What few people mention is that even at 11, he was already earning a significant amount of money. He sold Coca-Cola, chewing gum, and newspapers door to door. He organized his own delivery route, delivering 500 newspapers per day, earning 1 cent per delivery, and reinvesting everything. By the age of 13, his daily income, adjusted to today's value, would be equivalent to about $80, which was far more than many adults were earning at that time. So he didn't just start early, he also invested significant amounts of money. Think of it this way. Imagine dropping a single raindrop onto a trampoline. Nothing really happens, right? Now imagine throwing a bowling ball onto that same trampoline. It sinks deep into the fabric and then launches back up with force. That's the impact large investments have on the compound interest curve. It's not just time working its magic alone, it's time combined with weight. Most people believe compound interest works on its own, that discipline and patience are enough. But as we've seen, you need three key numbers to make it truly work. If one of them is missing, the miracle doesn't happen. Compound interest isn't just a game of patience. It's also a game of positioning. If you don't work to build a solid foundation, if you don't focus on increasing your income, investing better, and creating new sources of capital, you're not truly building wealth. You're just decorating your savings account. Warren Buffett became a billionaire because he used returns, time, and money in his pleas. Now that you understand that in the equation of compound interest, returns, time, and money walk side by side, let's see how the wealthy use large amounts to their advantage. While most people deposit $50 from their salary, hoping for a snowball in 40 years, the wealthy invest $50,000 all at once and compress decades into just a few years. This is called capital leverage. For example, think of two gardeners. One plants a seed and waits. The other transplants a mature tree and harvests fruit the very next season. Both call it investing, but only one feeds the family while still young. That's why bonuses, business profits, inheritances, and even tax refunds enter the portfolios of the wealthy like jet fuel. They inject large amounts early and take off. The rich understand something simple. Time multiplies capital. So the larger the initial amount, the sooner the growth curve begins to rise sharply upward. Understand this. I'm not saying it's bad to invest small amounts. If you invest $50 or $100 per month, you already have one of the most important traits for building wealth, the habit of investing. But the truth is, $50 or 100 Rs won't change your life. You need to deploy more capital. It's a hard truth to accept, but it's reality. For example, a doctor, a programmer, or a business owner can invest aggressively for just 10 to 15 years. They allocate six-figure amounts and let time finish the job. They understand that investing $10,000 per month for 10 years can do far more than investing $100 per month for 40 years. This strategy is not about being born rich. It's about building skills, businesses, or side projects that generate capital at an accelerated pace. When you create mass, compound interest becomes an amplifier. So ask yourself, what skill, service, or product could increase your income by 20% this year? That extra money isn't just for a better lifestyle. It's the weight, the bowling ball your future needs. So how do you move from where you are today to the level of capital that truly makes a difference? That's where a realistic plan comes in. Divided into two fundamental stages. Because before you can harvest the fruits of investing, you need to plant with strategy. The first stage is building capital. Building capital requires intentional action. So here are some practical strategies. The first is to increase your income. Invest in courses, certifications, or skills that raise your value in the market. A $500 course can generate an extra $2,000 per month. The second is to eliminate unnecessary expenses. Cancel subscriptions, negotiate your bills, and sell items you no longer use. Every real save becomes an investment. The third is to create alternative sources of income. It could be a side business, such as selling products online or offering freelance services. This will generate larger contributions and help you gain time in your wealth-building journey. The fourth thing you need is to take advantage of extra income. Bonuses, tax refunds, or gifts should go toward investments, not expenses. And the last thing, systems multiply everything. Hard work has a ceiling. Systems scale indefinitely. Rental properties, automated e-commerce stores, royalties, subscription-based apps, and well-structured agencies all follow the same pattern. Build once, maintain, and collect repeatedly. When you're only paid for the hours you work, growth is limited. But when assets and processes generate income while you sleep, compound interest works 24 hours a day. Yes, systems demand a lot of effort up front and may feel messy in the beginning. But once they gain traction, every reel they produce flows into your accumulated capital. And that growing amount needs fewer years to reach critical mass. Well, I finally finished this. It really took a lot of work to do. So at least leave a like And if you stayed until the end, comment on the way to 1,000 subscribers. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to change the way you deal with money in practice and learn the best method for financial freedom, the ebook link is in the description with a 60% discount for a limited time. I'll leave it here and see you next time.